Hey, true believers. Chris Matt coming at you with Amazing Spider-Man 151. And right off the bat, I gotta say, I love this cover. Very old school, dynamic, and the way I remember seeing Spidey growing up. This book, though, like diving into it, I wasn't too sure about the plot because there's a lot of build-up and there's a lot of wrap-up. But I gotta say, you know, I was out in Odessa, Texas, and that's where I found this book and this cover. I just can't get over it. I want to give a shout out to the Hive because they are the ones that had it in stock, so I appreciate y'all. But anyway, back to the story. The print date on this was December 1975. Lynn Wein was the writer-editor. Ross Andrew and John Romita Sr. were the illustrators. Glynis Wein was the colorist, and John Costanza was the letterer. And so again, I think this was sort of a filler issue, and the fact that we open up on this incinerator center and we see Spidey swinging to it, and we're thinking, why is Spidey swinging to this? And he pulls out this duffel bag and he goes, "You've been attacked by a creep-filled collection of your most deadly foes. You've been betrayed by a man you once admired and trusted. You've lost Gwen Stacy, the first girl you ever truly loved, for a second time. And to top it all off, you found yourself faced with this. Gotta hand it to good old Professor Warren, aka the Jackal, as if one Peter Parker didn't have more than enough trouble." And so we see here this clone, and Spidey's just, he does not know what to do with himself on seeing a double. He's like, it's harrowing seeing myself like this. And then he's like, my spider senses are tingling. Someone's spying on me. And this is what I mean by, I feel like this is more of a build-up issue because you think, okay, this is nothing, but that's actually a plot point for another issue. So it's just like, okay. And after that, we see Spidey burn the remains of his clone double. And then we dive into, once we get past the ads, I'm assuming this is Empire State University, not Midtown. And we see kind of everyone getting to know and get acquainted with one another. Got Peter, MJ, and Flash. And I like how Flash developed in the past. You know, he started out as a real jackass, and now, you know, he's an actually caring person. Flash is saying, you guys have exactly 2 minutes till the bell rings. You don't want to be late, do you? Speak for yourself, Mr. Thompson. Me, I was just getting comfortable. He goes, right now the most important thing in my life is my education. This is one ex-GI who intends to make something of himself. So I like to see how Flash turned from, you know, amateur, being a jerkwad, to actually growing up and wanting to be something with himself. And then we see Harry return to Empire State, and this was after he took up the mantle of the Green Goblin from his father. I guess what happens, he had amnesia. I'm still catching up on my Spidey lore. Growing up, I was always more Superman, Batman, and X-Men. But diving back and starting to read the rich history of Spider-Man, it's making me want to find more and more of these older issues. The newer ones, not so much. But seeing the progression of Harry, Flash, MJ, and it just still kills me that they killed Gwen. And I'm wondering, if you all know, tell me if it's 100% accurate or not, where Stan Lee said he was surprised that they killed off Gwen Stacy. He said in his story that he was getting ready to leave for a trip, and someone just said, we're going to kill Gwen Stacy, and he wasn't really listening. He said, yeah, okay, and when he came back, he goes, you did what? And by that point, it was too late. And it's just sad because Gwen Stacy, to me, was one of my most favorite characters. MJ, for me, it depends on who's writing her. Like, there's times where she can come off as a major bitch. But then, you know, you get like the early 90s when they were married, and she was a sweetheart. He really felt for her. So to me, it just depends on who's writing her. So anyway, what's important about this is we start to see Harry come back, and Peter's like, well, he when he was the Green Goblin, he knew who I was. He was a villain, but maybe, Harry's back now, you know. Maybe the amnesia will settle in for good. And then we jump in. This is probably my favorite part. It seems like a lot of reading, I know. But there's a party to celebrate Ned Leeds and Betty Brant, I believe her name is, to celebrate their marriage, and it's happening at J. Jonah Jameson's house. And he just hates that everybody's, you know, keeps turning up the AC, don't know what his music is, and he's just irritated at Flash Thompson. He's like, who's Guy Lombardo? Who's Mantovani, or Mantovani, Yeah, feel free to make fun of me down in the comments, but even some of these little references are dated for me. And what makes it interesting is you're thinking, well, where's the Spider-Man action? Come on. For me, the character interaction here is what really makes it. You see, what's his name? Harry and MJ kind of reacquainting themselves, and then Jonah just getting pissed off at everybody. That's really what makes the book. There's a scene. Let me see if I can find it real quick. Hold on. Right here. There's this lady getting ready to sit down. He's mad that someone bumped up the AC, and then he's like, "Madam, don't! You're making a terrible mistake." "I'm only sitting down." "Madam, please. This isn't a chair. It's an antique Indonesian incense burner." "Well, I never." And stuff like that is great. And while it's happening, you start to feel suspense because on the radio, a newscaster keeps breaking in talking about these consecutive systematic blackouts all the way down Manhattan until JJ wanting to stroke his own ego. His speech gets interrupted, which is hilarious. And then that's where we get into our action. And just look at this, Peter trying to swing up to this helicopter, changing on the fly. And it's just great, great artwork. I mean, look at that, the old school coloring methods. This is how Spidey should look. And then we realize, as they say in the beginning of the book, that the villain is the Shocker. This is, I guess, the reintroduction of him from way back in, like, I guess, issue 78 or something like that. But it's kind of neat to see him reintroduced and him and Spidey get into a really awesome slugfest. And, of course, him quipping, not being, you know, weak or bad joked or overly dumb as a lot of modern writers have written him. This is him on point kicking the Shocker's ass. And it's great, fun, beautiful anatomy. I mean, look at the way the old Marvel method of how they do the paneling, the onomatopoeias before they give you like stock ones that you can buy nowadays for Illustrator or whatever. This is all done by hand, and that's what you got to appreciate about it. Now, I don't want to give any more of this book away. I thoroughly enjoyed it. I know it's a short review, but sometimes when you just really have fun, it feels like the time flies. And again, I just don't want to give this book away. I know it's older, but if you haven't read in a lot of these older Spider-Man books, oh, definitely worth it. So if you've enjoyed what you've seen in this book, please, first and foremost, support your local comic shop. Again, there's no like major reveals or anything like that. It does, as I said at the beginning of the review, feels like they're wrapping up past events and then leading in to future events. But sometimes just kind of having a quiet start, then you start building into the action. It just helps because then you're sitting there and you're waiting in anticipation while you're also enjoying seeing how Flash, Harry, JJ, Peter, MJ, everyone bounces off one another. And that's what makes this book interesting. And of course it's Lin Wayne, and he was always such a great writer in my personal opinion. So if you've enjoyed this review, we really would appreciate it if you take a moment to hit like, share, and subscribe. Helps the club channel more than you could possibly know. And if you won't mind hitting that fancy little webhead bell next to subscribe, that way as we continue to upload content, you guys get notified. Come to the channel, and we love talking with y'all and hearing your feedback and thoughts down in the comments below, or our social media pages, which I'll be sure to leave the links down in the description. So with all that said, thank you so much for stopping by. Hope y'all continue to have an absolutely amazing day reading, and happy hunting, true believers.